Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, let me go to my main camera. Alright, we're live, and as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be working on overriding function in C++. That said, last stream, or actually for the past three streams, I have been working on the types of inheritance C++. The types were like single inheritance, multiple, I think it was multiple inheritance, even multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance, and a hierarchical inheritance. That made any sense, guys. Let me go to my center of the screen. There we go. Okay, that's it. Today I'm going to be working on overriding functions. So let's go to my gameplay screen. And let's say something like, let's say, and guys, if I can speak properly right now, it's because I'm not warmed up yet. That said, let's say something like I'm live, exclamation. Okay, let's see, guys. Let me just open my stream on my phone real quick. There we go. Okay, listen up, warriors of code. Every great programmer wants a beginner who refuses to quit. Every bug, every compiler error, every crash, they're not your enemies. They're the weights that build your coding muscles. So if you are watching this right now, remember, steel is only forged through fire, and today my pupil Vivek steps once again into that fire to sharpen his blade. Okay, alright, deep breath pupil. Today we enter one of the most exciting parts of object-oriented programming, function overriding. So let's begin. So firstly, what is a function overriding? Function overriding is when a derived class redefines or replaces a function that already exists in a base class with the same name, same parameters, and same return type. When this happens, the base class version is hidden and the derived class version takes over rules of function overriding. The base class and derived class function must have the same name, parameter, and return type. Okay. The base function must be marked as virtual, so C++ knows it can be overridden. Okay, when you call the function through a base class pointer or reference, the derived version will be called the runtime polymorphism. So guys, wait, basically, is this considered polymorphism as well? That's an example. Could be we include IOStream, we create an animal class that has a public virtual void speak. Okay, I haven't heard of the virtual void speak function. That said, which has a console output or a standard console output that says the animal makes a sound ending with a new line. Okay, and then we create a dog class that inherits all the public content from my animal class. Okay, now for my public dog class, the void speak override. Okay, so we use the override keyword. Okay, overriding the base class method. Now for the speak method, the dog says the dog barks. I see. And then we go ahead and create a main function. I go ahead and create a animal object by reference or by dereferencing a. Honestly, I've never used the dereferencing operator here. That said, we create a dog object as well, and we do something like a equals to a address of operator d. Okay, output the dog barks. So what's happening here? Animal has virtual function speak. Dog overrides it with its own version. When we use a base class pointer a to point to a dog object, calling a speak runs the dog's version instead of animals. That's the power of overriding different variables, same interface. Now my people, do you understand what function overriding is and why we mark functions as virtual in the base class? Or do you want me to go over how C++ actually decides to call functions behind the scenes? Honestly guys, I do have a few questions. So firstly, let's go ahead and say something like, so let's say I do have a few questions dot. Okay, let's see what our questions have. So I'll go with something like first okay, so first off, in our main function, I've never seen someone use a asterisk slash a dereferencing operator. There we go. When creating an object, and also let's see what was the next stuff. And guys, let me actually fix my typos. I should actually work on my typos. There we go. Okay, and also, why did we go with a equals to? Also, why did we go with a equals to a ampersand or a address of operator d? And why did we use a with a pointing operator? Is that called? Okay, let's go with something like, why did we use okay, a pointing to speak, There we go. With a pair of parentheses, question mark. I've only seen the arrow operator to be used using the this pointer, like something like this. Okay, let's see. Okay, good question, pupil. You're paying attention to details. That's what separates a coder from a programmer. Now sit up, crack those knuckles, and listen carefully, because what you just asked is exactly where most beginners get confused. Let's break this down step by step. Why use the dereferencing operator pointer symbol in animal A? Okay, in this line, animal A, we're not creating an object, we're creating a pointer to an animal object. Learn to touch type, it's a huge difference. Honestly, I haven't heard of touch type, but I actually might look into that. Okay, that said, we're not creating an object, we're creating a pointer to an animal's object. I see. Okay, that means A doesn't store an animal. It stores the memory address. Honestly, for the memory address, shouldn't we go with an address of operator? Okay, think of it like a remote control. The remote itself isn't the TV, but it can control the TV as long as it knows where it is. Number two, why A equals to the address of operator D. Now look at this line, dog D and A equals to a ampersand D. Dog D creates a dog object in memory. A address of operator of D means address of D, so it gives us the memory address of the dog object. A is an animal, and since dog A is animal because of inheritance, we can store the address of dog object inside the animal's pointer. Oh, I see. This is the key to polymorphism, using a base class pointer to refer to derived objects. Why we use A with a arrow mark operator instead of A.speak? If we had written A.speak, that would call the base class version, because A is a normal object, but since A is a pointer, we can't use the dot operator. We have to use the arrow operator, which means call this function on the object that this pointer is pointing to. Oh, I see. Okay, so A speak is the same as the address of operator. Okay, so A with a dereferencing operator dot speak. Oh, I see. Is just shorter and more readable. Okay, that actually makes sense now. Okay, now tell people, do you want me to explain how C++ decides which function to call, when to use a pointer behind the scenes, or do you want a small visual analogy to help you? Okay, let me actually say something like, let's say I feel like I understood it in theory. That said, can I get a instructional based question mark? Guys, I think I need some practice now. I actually did understand it in in theory. That says good. That's what I like to hear, people. You understand the theory. Now show me that your hands can follow your mind. Here's your first instructional based question on function overriding. Instruction is to create a base class called animal with a function called makeSound that prints some generic animal sound, then create a derived class called dog that overrides makeSound function to print woof woof. Okay, then in my main function, I gotta create a pointer of animal. Okay, make it point to an object of dog, call the makeSound function to call that makeSound function using that pointer. Be careful, if you forget to make the base function virtual, the wrong sound will be printed. Show me that you know how to make the right one, bark, pupil. Okay, let's get some ChatGPT here. That's it, guys. This is the code from last stream because I didn't have time to work off stream whatsoever. That said, I'm going to delete all this, and let's start off by including a pair of ankle brace brackets. I want to include IO stream. Maybe I fixed my include spelling. There we go. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and read the instructions. So the instruction says to create a base class called animal. So let's go ahead and create a base class called something like animal, and then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Now my animal class is going to be having a function / a method that has a static console output that prints some generic animals. So I'll go with a comment that says something like methods having Shari, is that how you pronounce her name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. I'm going to be creating a void method. So let's go with something like a void method called makeSound. So I'll go with something like makeSound sound with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of ankle braces. My void method is going to be having a standard console output with an insertion operator that is going to say something like some generic animal sound. I'll go with something like some generic animal sound. There we go, with a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, and then I gotta create a derived class called dog that overrides the make sound function to print woof and woof. Okay, so I'll go ahead and end this class with a semicolon, and then let's go ahead and create another class called something like dog with a pair of curly braces. Now my dog sound is gonna be having a method as well. Honestly, before I do create a method, my dogs class is gonna inherit all the public content from my animal class, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now let's add a comment that says something like methods. For my methods, I'm going to be creating a void method called, let's see, make sound as well. Okay, so I'll go with a void make sound method, add a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Now that prints woof and woof, so I'm going to go with a standard console output with an insertion operator that prints something like woof. Is it wolf or, oh, I think it's woof. So I'll go with WOF exclamation and then woof woof. There we go, with a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And then next up, I gotta create a main function. Honestly, I do think I gotta add like a virtual here, but I don't know why, so I'll actually not add that right now. That said, I'll go with something like integer main, I'll add a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, I'm going to be creating a object. So it says in the main function, create a pointer of type animal. So I'm going to create a pointer for my animal class. So I'll go with an asterisk. Okay, the object is going to be called something like a, okay, lowercase a. I won't be adding a pair of parentheses because I don't have a constructor. That said, I gotta make it point to an object of type dog. So let's go ahead and create an object for my dog class as well. So I'll go with something like a address of operator d ending with a semicolon, and then call the make sound function using that pointer. Okay. Okay, I did get like whatchamacallit, like I forgot what was this called actually, a red underline here. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and do something like my d object. Okay, let's go ahead and say something like make sound. Guys, I know this is kind of wrong because I didn't understand the part. I'm just writing the code as I understood it. Pointer k use for Honestly, guys, can you like type it in whatchamacallit in English? Because like I can hardly like, I do understand a bit of Hindi, but I can't like read it much. Like I can't like actually read it. I can just speak a little, guys. Okay, that's it. I'm going to return 0. That said, I'll go with the control C. Let's go ahead and copy that. Get some ChatGPT here. Guys, I did like, whatchamacallit, I did intend to like mess this question up because I actually don't understand this part. That said, let's say something like sensei. I knew that, let's say something like, I feel like I messed up, ... That said, I knew that I didn't know the question. I just wanted to write it in a way that I thought it would work. ... So, can you help me figure this question out? Question mark. Okay, let's see. Okay, good, you tried. Even good, you tried. Even when you weren't sure. That's the spirit of a real programmer. But yes, people, you made multiple mistakes, and we're going to go through each one because I want you to bleed knowledge, not confusion. Mistake 1, you've got to make the function public. Oh, I see. Oh, you didn't know Hindi? Alright. Honestly, I can like speak a bit, but I can't like actually read it because like, guys, I feel I'm a bit illiterate when it comes to like reading different languages. That said, in C++, class members are private by default. Okay, that means your make sound function. Oh, how to like convert it to a protected data type, I think. That means your make sound function in both animal and dog are inaccessible from the outside. Okay, guys, I feel my stream just lagged for a bit. Never mind. Okay, outside the class, including the main function fix, publicize everything. Mistake 2, the function in the base class isn't virtual. Without the keyword virtual, the compiler binds the function call at the compiler time, meaning it'll always be called animals version, not dogs. Okay, fix virtual void make sound. This enables runtime polymorphism. The magic of overriding. Mistake 3. Wrong object creation and usage. You wrote animal A, dog, D, da, da, da. Okay, this is all wrong. Dog with an address of operator of D declares a reference but doesn't initialize it. That's illegal. You then use D make sound, which is a pointer syntax, not a reference. The fix, I gotta go with animal A. I did this part, and then I gotta create a dog object, then set my A object to be equal to the address of operator of D. I see. Okay, next up. Now, people, before I give you the next challenge, can you explain it? Can you explain it to me in your own words? Why did we use virtual in the base class? Okay, so I'm assuming that we use virtual in the base class. Let's say something like, let's say, I think, let's say something like, I think that we used virtual in our base class because we needed to. Let's see. It looks like class encapsulism. Oh, I see. Okay, let's see. Because we needed stuff. Okay, to avoid having a copy in our base class. To avoid, I think to avoid having a copy makes sense. To avoid having a copy. Okay, although I didn't understand why did we add a asterisk in the okay. Oh guys, I didn't actually wanna write this in caps. Okay, let's go with something like, why did we add a asterisk when creating a animal object if we needed a memory address? Shouldn't we need to use a address of operator or a ampersand? Guys, if I am kind of if I don't have enough energy today, I don't know why is that. I just feel that I just don't feel that energetic today. That said, is it pronounced as stitch? Stitch, wrong, people. You're mixing up objects copying with polymorphism. Two completely different beasts. Sit up straight and listen carefully. Why we use virtual in the base class? When we call a function using a base class pointer or reference, C++ by default decides which function to call at compile time. I see. Okay. Dereferencing or asterisk means pointer. Honestly, I thought that asterisk is like a dereferencing operator. When we use like an ampersand or an address of operator, that gives us the memory address. Then when we use an asterisk, it converts that to like an actual actual stuff that we can actually understand and read, or it just be like a memory address without that. That said, why we use virtual in the base class? When we call a function using the base class pointer or reference, C++, okay, that means animal A equals to new dog, animal with a arrow mark operator. Okay, that makes sound. Okay, without virtual, the compiler says A is of animal type, so call the animals as version. Even if A actually points to a dog, it still calls the animal version. But when we make the function virtual void makes sound, we're telling the compiler, no, don't decide now, wait until runtime to see whether the pointer actually prints to the, oh I see, actually points to the call. Okay, points to, then call the correct function. That's called runtime polymorphism or dynamic binding. So with virtual, the call goes to dogs make sound instead. Oh, I actually see that actually makes sense. Okay, that said, now about A equals to the address of operator D. Let's break this down. A is a pointer, meaning it stores an address. D is a regular object, not a pointer. The symbol of the address of operator or ampersand gives you the address of D. So A equals to the address of operator D means make A point to the memory address of D. Oh, I see. Okay. So if you just wrote A equals to D, you'd be trying to assign an object to a pointer, which makes no sense. That's like trying to stuff a whole dog into a envelope, meaning meant only for its address. Oh, I see. Okay, in short, virtual enables function overriding at runtime. A equals to a address of operator D makes the pointer A point to the actual dog object. Now tell people, if we remove the virtual keyword from the base class, but we kept everything else the same, what would be the output and why? Okay, wait, honestly, let's say something like, let's say, I think I understand, ... Can I get another question mark? Guys, I think I actually get it this time. Okay, good. That's what I like to hear, people. You survived the first lesson in polymorphism, but let's see if you can handle the next test. Instructional question number 2, I gotta create a base class called shape that has a virtual function called draw, printing that displays drawing a generic shape, then make two derived classes called circle, which overrides draw to print draw a circle, and square that overrides draw to print draws a square. Okay, then in our main function I got to create an array of shape object with the size of 2, point the first element to a circle object, okay, and the second to a square object. Use a loop to call the draw on each object. Okay, let's get some C/ChatGPT here. Okay, why switch to Python? Honestly, I didn't actually switch to Python. That said, I did have like a Python for 100A series before my C++ for 100A series. That said, let me go ahead and start off by including a pair of ankle braces. So I'll go with something like hashtag include a pair of ankle braces. I want to include IO stream. And then let's go ahead and read the instructions. So it says to create a base class called shape. So I'll go ahead and create a base class called shape. And then add a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my shape class, that has a virtual function called draw, drawing a generic shape. So let's go with something like a virtual void method called something like draw with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. This is going to be having a standard console output. Oops, guys, let me just, there we go. Okay, that looks better. Okay, let's get the instructions. I actually by mistakenly canceled the instructions there. That said, I'm going to be going with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like draws a generic shape, drawing a generic shape. So I'll go with something like drawing a generic shape. There we go. With a / new line ending with a semicolon. And that's pretty much it for my shape class. Now let's go ahead and create two derived classes. Our first derived class is going to be called circle. Okay, and our circle derived class inherits all the public content from my shape base class. Then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Guys, I just realized I forgot to publicalize everything. Okay, so let's go ahead and publicalize everything. Whoops. There we go. Okay, now inside of my circle class, I'm gonna do something. I gotta create a draw method that overrides to print drawing a circle. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like methods. Did I add a comment up here? Okay, let's go ahead and add a method up here as well. Actually, a comment. It's honestly not that important to actually add these comments, although it is a pretty good habit to add comments. It helps in readability later on future. Okay, that said, honestly, let's go ahead and publicalize everything here as well. So I'll go with something like public. There we go. Okay, and then maybe indent that part. Okay, so I'll add a comment that says something like methods. And now I'm going to be creating a void method. So let's go ahead and create a void method. This method is going to be called something like draw as well with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of ankle braces. Although before I do go with a pair of ankle braces, I think I need to go with something like override. So I'll go with something like override. There we go. And then a pair of curly braces. And maybe remove that. Okay, so my void draw method overrides. Okay, so it overrides something. So I'll go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to say something. This is going to say something like drawing a circle. So I'll go with something like drawing a circle. Okay, with a / new line ending with a semicolon. When you create some virtual methods, always make virtual deconstructors. Honestly, yeah, I did like work with deconstructors. That's it. I should like use it on a regular basis, although I don't know what it actually does. That's it. I might actually ask that to Sensei/ChatGPT after this question. Okay, let me just hydrate my lips. Guys, I feel like my lips are way too dehydrated. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and end my class with a semicolon. And then let's create another derived class now. So I'm going to create another derived class called something like square. So I'll go with something like square that inherits all the public content from my, let's say, shape class. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Okay, I'll go with a pair of curly braces. And guys, I think my stream is laggy, but let me just restart this real quick. Already mic testing. Okay, perfect. I think that should fix the lag. Okay, that said, I gotta create another method. So, although before I do create a method, let's go ahead and publicalize everything. And now I'm going to be adding a comment that says something like methods for my method. I'm going to create another void draw method with a pair of parentheses that says that overrides, let's say, my draw method from my shape class. So I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like drawing drawing a circle. There we go, with a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Honestly, let's change that to a square because like I am drawing a square now. That said, I'm going to be ending this class with a semicolon as well. Okay, switch to Python pretty please. Honestly, I did have like whatchamacallit, about like 60 streams on my channel with like Python. You guys could like go up to like the playlist because I did have like a whole Python for 100 days series, guys. But my goal by the end of that series was to make a game in general, and I did actually make that game. I think about like I think I was actually done with that series about like 45 days ago. That was pretty fun actually. Python is pretty fun to use. Okay, next up, I gotta create an array of shape now. So let's go ahead and create, let's say, an array for my shapes class. So I'll go with something like shape, and then I'll add a pair of square brackets. This is going to be consisting of, let's say, 2 objects. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is how we create arrays. Maybe okay, let's go with something like shape. There we go. Okay, from my shape object, I created an array which consists of 2 objects ending with a semicolon. And now I gotta point the first element to a circle object and the second to a square object. Okay, bro, stop saying you stop saying the same thing. Switch to Python. Honestly, guys, I feel like whatchamacallit, I did like start a C++ for 100 series, so it wouldn't make sense to like switch to Python. That's it. I do like have whatchamacallit, a lot of streams on Python, so you guys could actually try watching that. Okay, that said, let's do something like shape. Now, how do I add something inside of it? I could do something like my shapes as array, so my shape object. Let's go with something like dot add. Should I go with something like dot add? Maybe I go with a for loop, so let's go with something like for a pair of parentheses. Let's say for every integer of I, so for every integer of I which equals to 0, while my I is less than, let's say, 2, my array size, I'm going to do something. I'm going to increment my I by 1. Okay, perfect. Robot. Guys, I'm actually not a robot. Okay, that's that. I'll go with the pair of curly braces, and now let's do something. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to actually append something inside of my array. I'm pretty sure I do know how to do this. So, let's do something like my shape and index of I equals to. I'm going to add my first object. Is this how we do this stuff though? Okay, let's create a few more objects. So I'll create an object for my circle class. So I'll go with something like circle. My object is called circle as well, ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to be creating a square class. So I'll go with something like square. Okay, this is going to be a square object. So I'll go with something like a square object ending with a semicolon. And then, okay, let's see. Okay, my square object. Okay, maybe I could go with something like shape equals to my circle object ending with a semicolon. Honestly, insert text here. Honestly, should I like use my... Oh yeah, actually I did forget to use an asterisk. Okay, hold up guys, my bad. Let's go ahead and create an array, a pointer from my array. And now I'm going to be creating 2 objects here, and this is going to be the address of operator of my circle, and then I'm going to do something like I want to do the same for my my second object in my array as well. How do I do that actually? Okay, honestly, I'll go with something like this loop does run twice. Maybe I just incremented once. Okay, actually, never mind. I think this is correct. Although this just adds my circle object, it doesn't add my square object. How do I honestly like add a square object? Maybe I could, instead of going with a for loop, let's read the instructions again. So it says create an array of shape, okay, with a reference of operator. Point the first element to a circle object and the second to a square object. The first element to a circle. Guys, I think I should know how to do this. I actually did like work with arrays, although I've never like added objects inside of my array. Okay, so let's think, how could we add the objects? Maybe I could go ahead and do something like shape at index of I equals to a address of operator of my square. So I'll go with something like square ending with a semicolon. Okay, I think that's pretty much it, honestly. Okay, and then I gotta use a loop to draw on each element. Oh, wait, what if I do something like my shapes is a vector. Actually, my shapes is array. Okay, at index of 0 to that equals to let's see, that equals to my circle object. Does that work? It does. I think I should do it something like this. And then I'll go with something like my shapes is object at index of 1 equals to, let's go with something like a address of operator of my square ending with a semicolon. Hold up guys, I think this is actually correct. I think this makes much more sense. And now inside of my for loop, this is where I iterate over my array. So I'm going to do something like my shape. So let's go with something like my shape at index of I. Okay, I'm going to display that. Let's go with something like dot the draw function or the draw method ending with a semicolon. Okay, since that gives me an error here, I honestly might not go with something like the draw method here. Wait, should I go with something like a arrow mark? Okay, there we go, that works. This is pointing to the specific object for stop the fake accent and then stop repeating the same thing. Guys, actually, I'm actually not faking the accent because like many of you guys do actually say this every single stream. That said, guys, it's almost impossible to fake our accent when we talk for hours plus learn something and read the charts as well. That said, I do sound pretty dead today. It's probably because I'm exhausted because I've been like studying the whole night yesterday for my college stuff because I do got an exam, guys. Okay, this is honestly pretty much it. Okay, let's go ahead and actually let's go ahead and return 0 now. So I'm gonna go ahead and return 0 ending with a semicolon. Now if I were to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, so it's gonna say something like drawing a circle, drawing a square. Perfect, guys. I did not believe in myself that I'd be able to do this question. That's it. I did work with arrays before. I think it has almost the same logic to it. That said, let's go ahead and paste this, go with shift enter and say something like, so let's say I honestly didn't know that I actually, let me just send the code, guys. I can't phrase right now. Area Boca. Guys, okay, do you enjoy coding every single day? Honestly, I wouldn't say like I enjoy coding. That said, I just whatchamacallit, if you like pretend something, guys, if you pretend something like for a long period of time, eventually that does become true. That's it. There are a few days like today where I'm like way too exhausted and kind of dead because I did like study the whole day yesterday for my college stuff because I do have an exam. That said, yes, that's it, people. That's exactly what I wanted. This is true function overriding in action. You may draw virtual, you used an array of base pointers, you stored the address of derived objects, and when you loop through them, each one called its own version draw dynamically. That's one-time polymorphism perfectly demonstrated. My dear pupil, drawing a circle, drawing a square. Now come here, head pat, guys. You aren't that, guys. That makes me feel so much better. Having Alexis, I appreciate you joining the stream. Your code is clean, syntax is solid, structure is proper. You're finally seeing how C++ bends to your will when you understand its hierarchy. Next question, ready? Let's step it up a bit. So question number 3 says to create a base class called employee with a virtual function called calculate pay that prints base employee pay that makes two derived classes. First is a full-time employee which overrides my calculate plays his method and prints full-time employee, and a part-time employee derived class as well. And then in my main function, I created an array of 3 employees this time. Make the first point to a full-time employee, the second to a part-time employee, and the third to another full-time employee. Use a loop to call calculate pay on all of them. Okay, perfect. Let's get Sensei/ChatGPT here. What's with the annoying fake accent, guys? Actually, my real accent. That said, let's go with something like a control A. Let's delete everything. And let's start off by including a pair of ankle braces. So I'll go with something like include a pair of ankle braces. I want to include IO stream. Okay, and then next up, let's go ahead and read the instructions. So it says to create a base class called employee. So let's go ahead and create a base class called employee. There we go, with a pair of curly braces. Now my employee class, okay, has a virtual function called calculate pay that prints base employee pay. Okay, because it's not his first language. Honestly, I feel like English is like my first language, guys, because I've been like influenced with English like way more than any other language. That's it. I do want to actually learn Spanish. That does sound pretty, which we call does sound pretty cool. That's it. I do know like a few phrases in Spanish. For example, like "Hola, cómo estás?" is like "Hey, how are you?" and like "Bienito" is good and you. And even like "Gracias," that is like "Thank you." That said, I am like a pretty beginner in Spanish as well. Might have to like take more Duolingo classes, guys. Okay, that's let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a methods. Honestly, before I do create methods, let's go ahead and publicize everything, and then let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like methods. Now, for my methods, I'm going to be creating a virtual okay, a virtual. Okay, let's say something like a virtual void method called something like calculate pay. So I'll go with something like calculate pay. There we go, with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Now my void calculate pay method is going to be having a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like base employee pay. So I'll go with something like base employee pay. Okay, let's go with something like base employee pay. There we go. With a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, guys, is my stream lagging? No, I think it's pretty good. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and end my class with a semicolon and then create another class. This is going to be a full-time employee class, which is going to be a derived class, honestly. So let's go with something like a full-time employee. There we go. Okay, my full-time employee class does inherit all the public content from my employee class. There we go. And then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my class, I'm going to be making I'm going to be creating a method that overrides my calculate pay method and to print full-time employee pay. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a. Honestly, before I do add a method, I'm going to publicize everything, and then let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like methods. Honestly, adding these comments aren't like necessary like for this code, honestly, but it is like a pretty good habit to have comments on because it makes code more readable, guys. Okay, that said, I'm going to be creating a void method called something like okay, so let's go with something like a void method called calculate pay. So calculate pay, okay, with a pair of parentheses. And then before I do go with a pair of curly braces, I am going to be overriding everything here. So I'll go with something like override, then a pair of curly braces. Did I spell it correct? Let's copy that, paste it here. There we go. Okay, I spelled it wrong, guys. I should fix my typos, honestly. That said, I'll add a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like full-time employee pay. So I'll go with something like a full-time employee pay. There we go. With a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, and that's pretty much it for this class as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And lastly, I'll create another derived class called part-time employees. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a class called something like part-time employee. Honestly, I might change that to like a capital F and like a capital P. Okay, so this is going to be something like a part-time employee. Okay, and my part-time employee class is going to inherit all the public content from my employee class. Then I'll add a pair of curly braces. Now let's go ahead and publicize everything. Maybe add a comment that says methods. I'm going to be creating a void method called something like calculate pay with a pair of parentheses. And before I add my pair of curly braces, I am going to be overriding everything inside of my class. So I'll go override and then a pair of curly braces. Now let's go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator. Don't get affected by these negative comments, racist or everywhere, keep going. Honestly, I do appreciate that, Harsh. That said, I honestly never feel like I do get affected, guys. I feel something's kind of wrong with me. Okay, that said, I'll go with something like part-time pay, which we call it part-time employee pay, with a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. What's the time for you? Honestly, it's almost 3 o'clock, like 3 p.m. Okay, that said, I'm gonna go ahead and end this class with a semicolon as well. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, I'm going to be creating an array which consists of 3 employees. So I'm going to be creating an array. Already, mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect, guys. My OBS actually crashed. That's it. How old are you? Or do you go to school? Honestly, I do go to college. Like, I am a freshman in college. That's it, bro. Pretty good. I just started taking a Python class, and man, it's interesting. Honestly, Python is really fun. I can't wait for you to start Pygames. Pygames are like even more fun, guys. Did you see they put another print function in C++ instead of console output? I think it's something like a console print. Annoying accent. Okay, that's go with something like employee, and then I'm going to be doing something. Let's go ahead and honestly add a pointer for my array of employees. I'll go with the proper square brackets. My array is going to be consisting of 3 objects ending with a semicolon. Okay, so basically my array of employees is basically a pointer that points to a specific, a specific object. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and create an object for my, let's say, full-time employee. So I'll go with something like a full-time employee. Okay, the object is going to be something like FTM. I don't know, guys. There we go. It's like a short form. There we go. And then I'm going to be ending that with a semicolon. And then I'll create an object for a part-time employee, which is going to be called something like PDM, ending with a semicolon. Next up, I'm going to be, let's say, filling these 2 employees inside of my employees class. Honestly, wait, let me read the instructions again. Okay, make the first pointer to full-time employee, the second to part-time employee, and the third pointer to a full-time employee again. Okay, so let's go ahead and now fill stuff inside of my employee. The first item is going to be something like my employees object at index of, let's say, full-time employee, that actually at index of 0, my bad, guys. Okay, at index of 0 equals to full-time employee. Okay, actually a ampersand or a reference of operator. There we go. So that is a dereferencing operator. This points to the exact address that needs to be dereferenced. What's your college name, bro? Honestly, guys, I don't think I can actually say my college name. That's I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon, and then I'll go with something like employee at index of 1 equals to. It's not a good practice to use namespace std. Honestly, yeah, it is like a pretty bad practice to use namespace std, because eventually in bigger projects, not prefixing with standard could like cause name conflicts. Okay, that said, how are you doing? Waggy, is that your pronunciation name? I appreciate you joining this stream. Okay, that said, the second is going to be a address of operator of my PDM, my part-time employee, ending with a semicolon. And lastly, I'll go with something like my employee at index of, let's say, 2 is going to be equal to a address of operator, my full-time employee again, ending with a semicolon. I see, nice. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and create a for loop. This is going to be a index-based for loop. So I'll do something like for every integer of I, which equals to 0. While my I is less than 3, my array's size, I'm going to increment my I by 1. And then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Now I'm going to go ahead and call my employee class at index of I. Let's go with a arrow mark operator that points to a specific, a specific place where my pointer is currently at. And then I'm going to calculate my total pay, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, it says full-time employee pay, part-time employee pay, and then full-time employee pay. Guys, I feel like I actually get the gist of how this works. So I'll go with Control-A, Control-C. Yo, bro, hiding Russian, is that your pronunciation name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like, okay, I feel like I understand how this works. Can we increase the difficulty level up a notch? Okay, let's see. Guys, I actually think I understand how many hours do you code. Honestly, these days I just code while I stream, because like off stream I do my college stuff. That's one reason why I'm pretty exhausted, because I have been like working on my college stuff almost the entire night yesterday. Guys, I'm kind of exhausted. Okay, that said, yes, that's if I want to see, people. You're no longer just learning polymorphism, you're commanding it. You wrote clean, perfect code, you understood the virtual mechanism, pointer, array, logic, and method overriding. You've earned your next trial instructional question number 4, advanced runtime polymorphism with parameters. Create a base class called shape that has a virtual function called area that prints base shape area to protected data members called width and height. Now create a derived class called rectangle that has a constructor to set width and height and overrides. Respect the grind, brother. I appreciate you, Russian. Okay, that's it. Area to point the area of the rectangle. A triangle has a constructor to set width and height and overrides the, and then a area to print the area of triangle. Formula is zero point 0.5 or half multiplied by width multiplied by height. How old were you? Honestly, I am 17 years old. That's it. I am going to be turning 18 real soon, guys. My birthday is on January 5th. I don't know if I'm going to be having like what you would call it, a specific stream for that or like a fun little stream for that. I think it's going to be a regular day for me, guys. That's it. Next up, in my main function, I got to create an array of shape. Okay, which consists of two elements. Point the first to a rectangle object and the second to a triangle object. Call the area method on each element. Bonus challenge: make sure you initialize width and height using constructors in derived classes. No direct no direct assignments in main function. I see. What section of college do you think to master? Honestly, eventually I do wanna either be a cybersecurity or like a AI engineer. That said, I'm gonna like what you call it, explore those two fields and see which I enjoy the most and then stick to one of those fields. That said, let me start off by including a pair of ankle braces. I want to include IO stream, and then let's see. Let's go ahead and do something. Let's go all the way up to the instructions. So it says I gotta create a base class called shape. So let's go ahead and create a base class called shape. Super cool, bro. Using ChatGPT to learn how to code. Honestly, I feel that's been the most effective for me when it comes to learning. Although many of you guys did say that it is like what you call it, it's like the slowest way to learn. I feel like it is pretty quick. Cause like what you call it, I feel like I've understood like a lot more. Okay, that said, I gotta create a class called shape that has a virtual function called area and prints the base shape. Okay. Although before I do create a function, let's go ahead and publicize everything inside of my class. And then I'm going to be creating a comment that says something like methods. For my methods, I'm going to do something. Let's go ahead and create a virtual void method. Excuse me, guys, so I'll go with something like virtual void. This is going to be called something like area with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Okay, my method is going to be having a standard console output with an insertion operator. Two protected data members called width and height. Okay, that prints the base shape area. Okay, so I'll go with something like base shape area to base shape area with a / new line ending with a semicolon. Pointers are still complicated for me. Let me see if I understand. Okay, you created a string of pointers and each space in the string received a memory address. You filled those addresses pointing to the functions. Honestly, for the last question, basically what I did was what you call it. I created a pointer using a dereferencing, using an address of operator, or like actually using a dereferencing operator or a ampersand. So that made that specific vector a pointer, and then later on, I filled in a few objects using the reference of operator that gave me the exact memory address to where the pointer was located. So like I have two separate memory addresses now. And then later on in my for loop, I did like use the the arrow mark operator to like actually dereference those specific places where the pointer was pointing towards. Guys, I feel like I'm awful at pronunciation. I mean, at explaining. That said, let's see. Okay, I forgot. I had to like create two protected data members as well. So let's go ahead and create a protected data member. Are you coding in C, bro? Honestly, I'm coding like in C++. Okay, that said, I'm going to be creating two protected data members. Both are going to be integers. The first is going to be something like width, ending with a semicolon. And the second is going to be an integer of height, ending with a semicolon as well. Okay, see, thank you. Honestly, I feel like that, the explanation was pretty vague. That said, let's see. Okay, now I got to create a few derived classes, print the base shape. Okay, let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon and create a derived class called rectangle. So I'll go with something like a class. Okay, bro, can you please explain me what is virtual? Honestly, basically what virtual means is like, if like multiple objects or multiple classes that inherit from one class use that exact same method, it's gonna actually, have multiple copies. So the compiler is gonna be confused at which copy should I actually use. Virtual just keeps one copy of like the area class unless the content is different. Using polymorphism, we like change the console output, change what the method does. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and create a class called rectangle. So I'll go with something like rectangle. There we go. And then I'm going to be, let's say, adding a colon. My rectangle class is going to inherit all the public content of, let's say, my shape class. There we go. With a pair of curly braces. And now let's read the instructions. My rectangle class has a constructor to set width and height and overrides area to print the area of the rectangle. Okay, since my rectangle class is going to be needing a constructor, I might actually create a constructor for my shape class as well. So let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like constructor. For my constructor, I'm going to be creating a constructor for my shape class which requires two parameters. So this constructor is going to be requiring a width parameter and a height parameter. Both are going to be integer parameters. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to be adding a pair of curly braces to initialize my data members. So I'll do something like this. Okay, I'll do something like this with data member equals to my width parameter ending with a semicolon. And then I'll do something like, let's say this height data member equals to my height parameter. There we go. Ending with a semicolon as well. Okay, perfect. Next up, let's go ahead and do the same thing for my rectangle class. So for my rectangle class, firstly, I'm going to be publicizing everything. So I'll go with something like public. Okay, when do I use class, struct, and map? Are they similar? Honestly, I did work with like structures, but I haven't like learned about maps. That's just, I feel like structures is like, whatchamacallit, they're almost the same as classes, but okay, I actually forgot much about constructors. They are the same as classes, but but all their content is, whatchamacallit, it's actually public, it's not private. So like, we cannot add protected or private in like struct. That's, you guys could like fact check me. I had like a whole stream on whatchamacallit structs. I haven't used structs like ever since I was like done with that stream because I like didn't have a need to use it. Okay, that's it. I should actually like review structures as well. That's it. I'm going to be adding a comment that says something like constructor. Now, for my constructor is a C++. Honestly, yeah, this is C++. That said, I'm going to be creating a constructor that does something. So, okay, let's create a constructor for my rectangle class, which is going to be requiring, let's say, two parameters. The first is going to be a width parameter. Okay, and the second is going to be an integer of height parameter. So these are the two parameters that my constructor is going to be consisting of. And then I'm going to be creating a constructor for my shape class as well, since I do inherit from my shape class. So I'll go with something like my shape class, add a pair of parentheses. My shape class requires two parameters as well. The first is going to be a width parameter. The second is going to be a height parameter. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Honestly, I won't go with a pair of curly braces. Or I might actually go with a pair of empty curly braces, then end the function. Sure, end the constructor. Okay, hiding Pavana or Pavan, is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining this stream. That said, do you know what are const methods? Honestly, basically what const actually are is like, if you like create a const variable that like does not let the variable actually change. So like we can't change the variable unless we don't actually change the variable inside the code. Like the const, for example, if this was a const width method, like const integer width equals to something like 10, my width is always going to be 10 unless I change it to be 11 here. Okay, okay, what are const methods? Honestly, I feel like const methods are the methods that can be changed as well. It's like constant methods. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and create a method now. So my rectangle class has a constructor to set width and height and overrides the areas. So width and height. Now I'm going to be adding a method. Okay, so I'll go with something like methods. Okay, for my methods, I'm going to be creating a, let's say, a void method called something like area with a pair of parentheses that overrides. So I'll go with overrides. There we go. Okay, that overrides my area method from my shape class. This is going to have something. Let's see. Print the area of the rectangle. Okay, so I gotta print the area of the rectangle. Guys, if I'm not wrong, area of rectangle is like length times width. Okay, length times width should be the same as width times height. Okay, so I'm gonna do something like, okay, let's go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator that displays my width data member multiplied by my height data member. Okay, then I'll add a / new line ending with a semicolon. Maybe I add another insertion operator that says something like area. There we go. Area of rect. So I'll go with something like area of rectangle. Okay. Mm, there we go. Area of rectangle is width times height. Okay, and that's pretty much it for my rectangle class. I'm gonna go ahead and end that with a semicolon. And now let's go ahead and create a class for my triangle. So I'll go with something like my triangle with a pair of whatchamacallit. Actually, I want to add a pair of parentheses. My bad, guys. I will be adding a colon and then whatchamacallit, inheriting all the public content from my shape class. Okay, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, let's go ahead and add a constructor to begin with, although before that, I am going to be publicizing everything. So let's go with something like public and then add a comment that says something like constructor. There we go. Okay, now for my constructor, let's see. I'm going to be creating a constructor for my triangle class. So I'll go ahead and type triangle. There we go. With a pair of parentheses, my triangle class is going to be requiring two parameters as well. The first is going to be a width parameter. The second is going to be a height parameter. Both are going to be integers, so I'll go with something like integer of width and a integer of height. And then I'm going to go in a new line, add a colon and create another constructor for my shape class since I am inheriting from my shape class. Then I'm going to go with a pair of parentheses. My shapes constructor does require two parameters as well. It is a width parameter and a height parameter. Okay, and then I'll go with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Because if you create const objects, you won't be able to call non-const methods. Oh, I see. That actually does make sense. Okay, that said, let me go ahead and create methods now. So I'll add a comment that says something like methods. Now for my methods, I'm going to be creating, let's say, a void method called area again with a pair of parentheses that overrides my, let's say, that overrides my area method from my shapes class. Okay, now my method is going to be having a standard console output with an insertion operator. I'm going to say something like area of triangle. I think I can capitalize this. There we go, triangle. Okay, area of triangle is going to be, I'm going to go in a new line, add another insertion operator. So the area of triangle is half multiplied by width multiplied by height. So I'm going to go with 0.5 half multiplied by my width parameter, okay, multiplied by my height parameter. Okay, with another insertion operator of a / new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, that's pretty much it for my triangle class as well. Now let's go ahead and end my triangle class with a semicolon. Okay, with the help of AI, we can easily understand these concepts. Honestly, yeah, that does make sense because it makes stuff so much easier. Although many of you guys do say me that AI does teach wrong stuff, I feel like AI does teach correct stuff. We actually understand what we're doing instead of just copying the code out. Because if something is wrong, we could catch it and try saying AI which is actually wrong. Okay, that said, I'm gonna go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, I am going to be creating an array of shapes. So let's go ahead and create an array for my shape object. There we go. My array is going to be consisting of two objects. So I'm going to go with something like 2, ending with a semicolon. Did I spell it correct? Shape. Okay, wait, did I spell my shape correct? S-H-A-P-E. Okay, wait, can I create objects like this? I'm pretty sure it's correct. Why are you so zesty, guys? I'm actually not zesty. Okay, that said, I'm going to be adding a dereferencing operator. Okay, that apparently works. I wonder why. Maybe because I had a constructor with this in it. Yeah, I should actually ask that. Okay, that said, next up, let's go ahead and create a object for my rectangle class. This is going to be called something like rect, ending with a semicolon. And then, should I go with an address of operator here as well? Okay, I mean a dereferencing operator. My bad, guys. Make AI course series. Honestly, that does make sense. I feel like all my streams are AI the way teaching, because I do I do use Sensei/ChatGPT every single stream. So you guys could even code with me. That does sound pretty fun because I have many of you guys saying that you guys do actually like to program with me. That's it. I'll go with a dereferencing operator of my triangle. There we go. Ending with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and append a few objects inside of my shapes as vectors. So actually my shapes is array. So I'll go with my shape object at index of 0 equals to a adverse of operator or a ampersand of rect ending with a semicolon, and then my shapes array at index of 1 equals to there we go. I'm gonna go with something like equals to my triangle class. Okay, ending with a semicolon. Wait, did I like mess something up here? Hey, day 41 course, let's go! Okay, what's up gang? How you doing, Madbot? I appreciate you joining the stream. Crappy devs. Do you like Java or C++ better? Honestly, I haven't learned Java yet. That's it. I was pretty excited to start Java. That's it. I feel C++ is pretty fun. Okay, C++ better. I feel C++ is actually pretty fun. Okay, that said, okay, why do I need to add a ampersand there? I mean, adversive operator. Let's see. Am I messing something up here? Oh, okay, my bad, guys. I didn't add a constructor. Hold up, guys. I had a constructor. Okay, let's go with a pair of parentheses. Okay, this is going to be consisting of my rect object. Let's go with something like my rect object and my triangle object. Okay, perfect. Now let's go ahead and copy these classes and get those classes down here. There we go. Okay, let's go with something like my rect. Rect requires of a width and height, so I'm going to do something like, let's say something like 50 and 60. Okay, and then triangle does require something as well, so I'll go with the control C, add a pair of parentheses. This is going to be 30 and 40. Okay, triangle. I think it's correct. Let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. That's my rect object. That's my triangle object. Let's go ahead and maybe delete this at 0 and 0. Honestly, I'll go with something like 1 and 1. Okay, can't I go with 1 and 1? Huh. Okay, that is my shape. Okay, maybe I remove this. Okay, this is cool, bro. Keep it up. I appreciate you, Drowski. Is that how you pronounce your name? Okay, that's it, guys. I actually realized I don't have water here today. That's it. Let me hydrate my lips real quick. I feel like I did mess up somewhere. Okay, so if I do create an array, how do I add my objects in it? Could I do something like triangle? So let's go ahead and create a object for my shapes class. So I'm going to go with shape. Apparently shape is going to be an array which consists of 2 objects, and then I'll add a pair of parentheses. Now I gotta fill in the 2 parameters. Okay, I actually might remove my constructor from here, honestly. Okay, let's go ahead and remove my constructor. Excuse me, guys. That said, I might not even need these in that case. Let's go ahead and remove that. And then add a pair of curly braces ending with a semicolon here. I'll do the same thing for this. I'm going to go ahead and remove that, add a pair of curly braces ending with a semicolon. And now if I do create a shape object or a shape array, so I'll go with something like shape with a pair of parentheses. My object consists of 2 elements, and then delete it. There we go. Okay, and this is going to be having a dereferencing operator. Perfect, that works. Okay, what language is this? Honestly, this is C++. That said, rectangle and triangle objects shouldn't be pointers. Oh, I see. If you understand C++, Java will be easy. Oh, I see. This is cool, bro. Keep it up. I appreciate you, Drowski. What language is this? Cheers. I'm just having fun with Python and SQL. C++ looks fun, though. Honestly, yeah, Python is actually pretty fun. That's it. I feel C++ is even more fun once you actually understand the syntaxes. Okay, that said, were you making? Honestly, I am learning about overriding functions in C++. Shape at index of I equal to trirect. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and add a for loop. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like for every integer of I which equals to 0. While my I is less than 2, my array's size, I'm going to increment my I by 1. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my, let's say, for loop, I'm going to do something. I'll go with something like my shape at index of I is going to be having an arrow mark operator of my area method ending with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, perfect. Was this here? I think it was there. Okay, lastly, let's go ahead and return 0. Now, if I were to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, you should take a second to understand pointers and addresses, not just randomly use them till it works. Honestly, I didn't actually like randomly use them. I do like actually what you would call it work a lot with them. That said, area of rectangle is 0 and area of triangle is -2, guys. I feel something is wrong there. Okay, let's see. So it's width and height. Oh wait, let's go with something like 10 and 2. Now if I were to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, that still gives me like a log number. Okay, honestly, should I create a separate variable instead of doing this in here? Or should I go with a pair of parentheses instead? I think a pair of parentheses is what I was missing, guys. Okay, width times height. Let's add this in a pair of parentheses as well. There we go. Okay, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command. Copy my link, please. Honestly, I didn't like actually see a link. Okay, that said, let's go with something like a Control-C, copy that, gets in C/ChatGPT here. That said, let me go ahead and paste this here, go with Shift-Enter, use a const for your array size. Use a constant. Actually, let me actually ask that as well. Let's say something like, Sensei, I feel like I messed up, question mark. Did I need to create a area variable and add the formula there, question mark? And someone from my stream was saying me, okay, to use constant arrays. Is that actually a smart idea? That said, someone else did say me to use destructors as well. Okay, but honestly, I don't see how that's useful. Can you help me understand it, question mark? Okay, let's see. Guys, I should actually fix my typos. There are so many typos. Change width and height to double. Honestly, that does make sense. That said, oh no, people, I see what you did, and it's almost there, but you screwed up a few crucial things. Listen carefully, or you keep making the same mistakes. Problem with your constructors, rectangle, integer width, you took parameters, but you did nothing with them. Okay, your width and height members never got initialized. Okay, when you calculate width multiplied by height, that's garbage. Width equals to width, height equals to h. Huh. Are using an initializers list better in C++ style? So I go with these are my parameters. Colon, width is w, height is h. Okay. About creating an area variable, not needed in this case. You can calculate the area directly. Okay, the area function using a separate variable is optional, just style choice. About constant arrays, your friend might be thinking shape with a dereferencing operator of shape equal to rectangle instead of declaring the array and assigning later. That's fine, slightly cleaner but not mandatory. Example, shape with a dereferencing operator of my shape object, or my shapes is array object which consists of two elements which equals to rect and triangle. About destructors, right now your classes don't allocate memory dynamically, so you don't really need them, but in general, if you have virtual functions, you should take the base class destructor. Okay, why? Imagine this shape with a dereferencing operator of s equals to new rectangle, delete 5. If shape's destructor is not virtual, only the shape's destructor runs. Rectangle's destructor won't, which cause memory leaks in rectangle allocated memory. Correct way, virtual shape. Okay, this ensures when you delete a base pointer, the derived destructor runs first, then the base fixed version. Okay, so basically where I messed up was I didn't I didn't initialize my parameters. Okay, people, here's the lesson. Overriding only works if you derive objects. If your derived objects are properly initialized, your functions can be perfect, but if the data is garbage, your output is garbage. Okay, so let's get some say/ChatGPT here. Just type slower, dude, guys. That actually makes sense. I should actually type slower. That's it. Maybe you have a type conflict. You should use float/double. That actually does make sense because usually areas and widths should be doubles. Okay, that said, let me go ahead and actually initialize them. I do want to do it using the initializers list because I like almost never use those. Okay, so I'll go with something like this, and apparently to initialize it, I go with something like width. With a pair of parentheses is my w parameter. Okay, and that is going to be something like h. That's width, and then I'll go with something like height. Height equals to h. Isn't this how we like do it? Okay, let's fix my typo. There we go. Height. Oh, okay, wait. Let's get sincere real quick up there, guys. Isn't that how we use the initializers list? With height, integer. Okay, did I do something wrong here? How are you doing? Great, guys. New subscriber, I appreciate you. That actually means a lot to me, guys. Okay, next up. Honestly, where did I actually like mess up for my initializers list? Okay, let me actually go ahead and do that for my triangle constructor as well. So I'm going to go with a colon, do something like width with a pair of parentheses, that is going to be w, and something like height, which is going to be h, and let's change that to a w and that to a h. It should be done in the shape class. In the shape class, oh, okay, when I create a shape class, I don't have a method here. I mean, I don't have a constructor though. Let's try creating a constructor. Okay, what are you making? Honestly, I am learning about overriding functions in C++. That said, this is going to be my constructor. For my excuse me, guys. For my constructor, I'm going to be creating a shape classes constructor with a pair of parentheses. Now, my constructor is going to be requiring two parameters. The first is going to be a width. The second is going to be an integer of height. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces and initialize them. So I'll do something like this width data member equals to my width parameter ending with a semicolon, and then something like this height data member equals to my height parameter ending with a semicolon as well. Okay, perfect. Maybe I fix my typo real quick. There we go. Okay, now does that initialize it? Okay, doesn't actually do much. Okay, that said, okay, maybe. Okay, let's actually go with the control C, copy that good /ChatGPT here again. Okay, I do have like a quick question because I did this exactly, but it still didn't work. Let's go ahead and paste this, go with shift enter and say something like, since say I tried creating and then called shape constructor from other class initializer list, not width / height. Wait, I do know that I do gotta actually call my shapes class because I am inheriting from that class. Although I don't see why would I like need a constructor here, because I am honestly just going with the width and height from my rectangles class. Okay, I could honestly just try it real quick. Let me actually try that first. Okay, so I'll go with something like a colon. Let's go ahead and create a constructor for my shape class, a row of parentheses. So, okay, now my shape class does require two parameters. The first is going to be a width. Second is going to be a height. Okay, that actually didn't do anything much. Although I feel like this should work. Like I rarely use a initializer list. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and get some ChatGPT here. I tried creating a constructor using a initializer list. Okay, that said, I see a red underline. Okay, let's see. Why do I see a red underline? People, stop trying to force it without thinking. Okay, that's the problem right now. I see exactly what's wrong in your code. Initializer list is underlined. Look closely. Rectangle, okay. Width and height are members of the base class shape, not rectangle or triangle. Should I like call my class and do something like shape, 2 colons, width is going to be something like W? Would that work? If you have a constructor for a triangle, it will not use the shape constructor unless you specifically call it. But in that case, should I go with something like my shape class? There we go. Would that work? Okay, still actually doesn't. Okay, that said, guys, and I feel like I can't think much today because like I feel like I'm kind of exhausted. That said, let's see. This passes W. Okay. Correct way to call base class constructor in the initializer list. So rectangle integer W, integer H, colon shape WH. Oh. Okay, this passes width and H to shapes constructor, which properly sets width. Oh, I see. Okay, so if I'm inheriting from a class, I gotta go with my shape class. That's why we used a colon here, guys. Okay, that's actually kind of stupid. I should have actually realized that. Okay, let's try it. So I'll go with something like shape, add a pair of parentheses. This time I'm gonna go with something like, let's say, W and H. There we go. Okay, this actually makes sense. That even like Okay, that even like which answered my question why we needed a colon here, because like you did it right, but you forgot to remove the old width slash height. Oh, I see. Okay. Alright, perfect. Next up, let's go ahead and do the same thing here as well. So I'll go with something like shape, add a pair of parentheses, W and H. Okay, that makes sense that why am I using a colon here? We usually use colon when we're like going with the second class stuff, or like when we go to create constructor from the class that we're inheriting from. Okay, that said, so I added an initializers list, I initialized my variables. Okay, and this time I gotta do something like W and H. Okay, that is integer of W, integer of H. Okay, aren't they the constructors? So integer W, integer H, instead width and height. Wait, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, let's run the code. Okay, it says rectangle is 3000, area of triangle is 10. Okay, I think that's actually correct. Okay, now let's go with the control C, get sensei slash add GP here again. Let's go ahead and paste this, go with shift enter and say something like sensei, it works, although I don't take credit for this question because I did get a lot of help, although I feel like I understood it now. Okay, let's see. What are you making? Honestly, I am learning the basics of whatchamacallit, overriding functions in C++. That said, yes, people, that's exactly what I wanted to see. Look at that polymorphism working perfectly. Area of the derived class is overriding the base class function, and your constructor properly initializing width and height. I don't care who helped you. What matters is that you understand it now, and you'll never forget why the base constructors must be called in the initializer list. That's learning. Quick recap for you to own it. Virtual functions allow the derived class function to be called even in the pointer, okay, is of a base type. Initializer list is derived classes must be called the base class constructor to initialize inherited members. Destructors eventually makes the base class destructor, okay, virtual, so polymorphism works safely with delete. Sensei's warning, if you want to level up your understanding, we can do the next question where we store multiple shapes in a const array and add a destructor with dynamic memory allocation. That's harder and will make you sweat, but I know you're ready. Okay, let's say something like, yes, Sensei. Guys, really excited for that question. Okay, that said, yes, that's the spur pupil. Let's make you sweat. Here's a scenario. Instructional question, you need to create a program that has a base shape with width and height data members and a virtual destructor. Okay, then I gotta create two derived classes. The first is going to be called a rectangle and the second is going to be called a triangle. Overriding a virtual area function, you will dynamically allocate an array of shape, okay, not just a normal array. Make it const in size that says 3 elements, okay, and then store different shapes in the array, at least one rectangle and one triangle. Call array on each element using a loop. Properly delete all dynamic memory at the end. Remember, use new to allocate objects and use delete for cleanup. Hold up, guys, I might need a quick brush up on like new and delete. It's been a while since I used those. Let me say something like, Sensei, before I get into the question, can you give me a quick review on how to use new slash delete? Because it's been like 20 days since I've learned them. There we go. Honestly, I did like have a stream on the new and delete keyword. That's it. I haven't like used them in object-oriented programming. Alright, people, listen up. You're getting lazy, and I can't let that happen. Here's the crash refresher on dynamic memory allocation in C++. New, allocate memory. New creates an object on the heap instead of the stack. Returns a pointer to the newly created object. So type ptr equals to new type, okay, default constructor, then type with the dereferencing operator of my pointer 2 equals to new type args, okay, constructor with arguments. Example, we create an integer of a a integer with a dereferencing operator of num, which is equal to a new integer, allocate an integer, and then a dereferencing operator of num, which equals to 42, assigns the value. Okay, rectangle, okay, with a dereferencing operator of rect equals to new rectangle. Okay, to delete free memory, always free what you allocate, otherwise the memory leaks. Okay, otherwise you get memory leaks. Use delete for a single object, delete with a pair of, or with a square brackets for arrays. Okay, and then delete PDR. These are the syntax. So delete PDR, single object, delete array of objects. Okay, and then delete num, delete rect. I see. Okay, important notes. If you delete via a base class pointer, the base class destructor must be virtual, otherwise a derived class cleanup won't run. Shape S equals to new rectangle. Delete S safely calls rectangle and deletes it. Okay. Stack objects like rect or 1020 are automatically destroyed. Okay. No delete needed. People, if you want, I can give you a mini live example on shape, array, and array, so you can see new and delete in action before you do a full question. Honestly, before I do actually do that, let's say something like, say, before I do that, can you say me the difference between a heap memory and a stack question mark? I have heard a lot about them, but never looked into them. Guys, many of you guys do say about stack and heap memory, but I haven't ever gone into those. That's listen closely, people, because this is one of those fundamental things that will haunt you later if you ignore it. Stack memory, where it is automatically managed by the program, think of it as stack of plates. Last in first out allocation happens automatically when you declare variables inside functions. Lifetime goes away automatically when your scope ends. Size limited, usually a few MBs. Speed very fast, super efficient. Okay, so those are stack memories. And then, for example, integer x equals to 10 stored on stack. Rectangle R. Okay, so the object of R, stack object. Okay. Problem, if you overuse stack overflow, if you allocate too much, reuse too deeply. Heap memory, okay, where it is a big pool of memory managed manually. Okay, allocation happens manually using the new keyword in C++. Lifetime exists when you explicitly call the delete keyword. Size much larger than stack, can hold big objects / arrays. Speed slower than stack because it requires searching for free space, managing fragmentation. Okay, rectangle with a address of operator R equals to new rectangle. Heap allocation, delete R must be manually. Problem if you forget, memory leak, memory reserves. I think I see symbol of dereferencing, not always a dereferencing operator. When you see it with a variable creation, it's called just a pointer. Integer A is a pointer to integer. Oh, that actually makes sense in that case. I might actually call it pointer in that case. Okay, I think I see. People, think of this something like stack equals to short-term memory, super fast auto cleanup, heap, long-term memory, powerful, but you're responsible for cleaning your mess. If you want, I can show you a tiny live example. Let me say something like, Sensei, I think that I understand it in theory. Okay, that said, can I get a question for it, question mark? Okay, let's see. Alright people, time to test that brain of yours. Here's your instructional based question on virtual functions plus new / delete plus polymorphism. So our question is to create dynamic shapes with polymorphism, create a base class called shape with a protected data member called width and height, which are both integers, and a constructor to initialize width and height, then a virtual method called area that prints base shape area, and then I gotta create two derived classes. First is a rectangle, which overrides area to print area of rectangle. Okay, and then a triangle, and then I gotta create a main function that creates a pointer of arrays. So we have a pointer of array, okay, that dynamically allocates a rectangle with width 10 and height 15, and a triangle with width 6 and height 8. Store their addresses in the array, loop through the array, and call the area for each object. Important, use new to create objects, use delete to free memory. Okay, that's it. Let's get Sensei slash ChatGPT here. Okay, honestly guys, I think I got this. I think I do understand how this works. That's it. Let's get the instructions up there and then go with the control A, delete everything. Now let's start off by including a pair of ankle braces. I want to include, let's say, IO stream. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do something. I'm gonna go ahead and create a class called shape. So I'll go with a shape class, add a pair of curly braces. Now my shape class has two protected data members, so I'll go ahead and create a few protected data members, which is the first one is going to be an, excuse me guys, an integer of width. The second is going to be an integer of height. Okay, and then I'm going to end it with a semicolon. That said, let's go ahead and publicize everything now. So I'll go with something like public. And now let's create a constructor. Howdy Sura, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that said, for my constructor, there we go. I'm going to create a constructor for my shape class, which is going to be requiring two parameters. The first is going to be a width parameter. The second is going to be a height parameter. Okay, integer of height parameter. Okay, and I am going to be creating a constructor using an initializer list. So I'm assuming I gotta add a colon here that does something like, let's say, my width data member. Okay, my width data member. Okay, with a pair of parentheses is going to be my width. Should I go with something like, wait, hold up. Let me just go to a new line real quick, guys. There we go. Okay, I'm going to do something like this width data member. Is this valid here, guys? I think it's not. So I could just do something like this width is going to be something like W. Let's change that to W. Okay. Okay, I could actually do this, but I don't prefer creating constructors like this. I like using this. So I'm going to be adding a pair of curly braces. And now I'll do something like this width data member. There we go. Equals to. There we go. Equals to my width parameter ending with a semicolon. And then I'll do something like this height data member equals to my height parameter ending with a semicolon as well. Okay, that said, let's read the next instruction. I gotta create a constructor to initialize width and height, so I did create a constructor that initializes them. Next up, I gotta create methods, so let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like methods. Now, for my methods, I'm going to be creating a virtual method called area, so let's go ahead and create a virtual void method called something like area, so I'll go with area. There we go, with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Now let's see, so my area method is going to be displaying something like base shape area, so I'm going to add a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like base shape area with a / new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, that's pretty much it for my shape class. Let's go ahead and end my shape class with a semicolon. And let's go ahead and create a derived class called rectangle now. So I'll go with something like rectangle with a pair of parentheses. Actually, my bad guys, with a colon. My rectangle class is going to inherit all the public content from my shape class. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now let's see. Okay. Let's go ahead and read the instructions, I guess. So my rectangle class overrides my area method from my shape class to print area of rectangle is my calculated area. Okay, although before I do create a method, let's go ahead and publicize everything. So I'll do something like public. And now let's go ahead and create a constructor for my rectangle first. So I'll go with something like a constructor. Now for my constructor, let's create a constructor for my rectangle class. So I'll go with something like rectangle for parentheses. My rectangle constructor is going to be requiring two parameters. The first is going to be an integer of W and second is going to be an integer of H. You should make it abstract. You don't need to define it in shape because area doesn't make sense for shape. The base class should also be abstract. Oh, I see. Honestly, that does make sense. That's the reason I am actually creating this in like a base class when, yeah, honestly, I wouldn't need like a width and height here as well. I could like just do everything in one class. That's it. I am like using multiple classes because I do want to practice like a specific topic and like I am just doing instruction based question like for the practice. Okay, that said, my rectangle class is going to be having an initializers list. So I'm going to go ahead and call my shape class as well, which is going to be something like W and H, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Honestly, ending with a pair of parentheses and then a semicolon. Okay, now I'm going to be creating methods. So I'll add a comment that says something like methods. For my methods, let's go ahead and create a method called a void method called area. Did I create a method here? So there we go. Okay, so a void method called area, which is going to be overriding. So I'll go with something like override, add a pair of curly braces, which overrides, let's say my area method from my shape class. This is going to be having a standard console output with an insertion operator that displays something like area of your rectangle is, okay, the area of your rectangle is, I'll go in a new line, add another insertion operator. This is gonna say something like, I don't know, maybe I'll go in a pair of parentheses and do something like my width data member multiplied by my height data member. Okay, and then I'm going to be going with another insertion operator of a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And honestly, that's pretty much it for my rectangle function. Let's go ahead and create another class now. This class is going to be called, I'm assuming, triangle. Okay, a triangle. So I'm going to be creating a triangle class. So there we go. My triangle class inherits all the public content from my shape class. And then I'm gonna go with a pair of curly braces. Let me spell it correct. There we go. Okay, now inside of my shapes, inside of my triangles class, I'm going to be adding a comment. Also, before I do add a comment, I am publicizing everything. And then let's add a comment that says constructor, because I will be creating a constructor. Now, for my constructor, I'll create a constructor from my triangles class, which requires two parameters. First is going to be a W, and second is going to be H. Okay, perfect. And then I'll go in a new line and create a constructor for my shape class as well. Now, for my shapes class, my shape class requires two parameters as well, which is width and height. So I'm going to go with something like W and H, ending with a semicolon. Okay, honestly, I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then end it with a semicolon. Would be cool if area methods return calculated area instead of printing kind of more functional. Return calculated area. Honestly, I could actually do that. So let's do something like calculated area, okay, of rectangle. There we go. That actually sounds better as well. Now let's go ahead and create a method. So I'm going to be adding a comment that says something like methods. For my methods, I'm going to be overriding my void area method. So I'll go with something like area. And then let's go ahead and use the override. So override, there we go. My override keyword with a pair of curly braces. I'm going to be adding a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to say something like calculated area of triangle. Up something like triangle. There we go. And then I'm going to go in a new line, add an insertion operator. This is going to be having a pair of parentheses, and it's going to do something like 0.5, which is half multiplied by my width, or my W, multiplied by my height. There we go. Okay, perfect. Honestly, should I go with something like width and height? I could go with width and height. So I'll go with something like width. There we go, and that is going to be my height. Okay, and then I'll go with another insertion operator of a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon, and this is going to be height. There we go. Okay, perfect. That's pretty much it. Did I spell it correct? There. Okay, now let's go ahead and end my triangle class with a semicolon as well. And then I gotta create a main function, so let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'm gonna do something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Now my main function needs to create a pointer of array. Okay, so I'm gonna create a pointer for my shape class. So I'll go with something like shape. There we go, which is going to be a pointer. I'm going to be creating an object of shape, which is an array and consists of, let's say, two elements. Okay, and then I gotta dynamically allocate rect with width 10 and height 5. So I gotta dynamically allocate. So I'm assuming I need to whatchamacallit. What was that called? I actually forgot. I gotta use the new keyword. Okay, so dynamically allocate rect. So let's go ahead and create a rectangles object as well. So I'll go with something like rectangle of let's say something like rect equals to new rect. Doesn't make sense, guys. I think this does not make any sense. Okay, that's it. Let's just create a rect in that case. This is going to be 10 and 5. Okay, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and create a triangle object and a triangle with width of 6 and height of 8. Store their addresses. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create an object for my triangle object as well. This is going to be called something like triangle. With a pair of parentheses, this is going to be 6, width is going to be 6, height is going to be 8. There we go. It's Java. Honestly, it is C++. That's it. Would be cool if area method return calculated. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And now I gotta loop through the array. Although before I do loop through the array, I'm gonna do something like my shapes array or my shapes pointer array at index of 0 equals to my rectangle ending with a semicolon, my rectangle object. Did I like spell it correct? Rectangle. Okay, I'm pretty sure. Should I go with something like new rectangle? Oh wait, I should go with like a address of operator. There we go, because that points to something. This gives me the memory address on which it is pointing. Okay, next up I'll go with something like shape1 equals to, let's go with something like another address of operator of, let's say, triangle object ending with a semicolon. Okay, that's going to be triangle. There we go. Okay, and should this be something like new? Because I'm pretty sure I gotta create news as well. Okay, this should not be new. I might actually ask where I gotta create new. That said, let's go ahead and use a for loop. Now, I'll use an index-based for loop, so I'll do something like for every integer of I which equals to 0. While my I is less than 2, my array's size, I'm going to increment my I by 1. Okay, and then let's go ahead and call my shape at index of I, my shapes object at index of I, which is going to be pointing towards my area method, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0. Okay, perfect. Now, if I were to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So it says area of rectangle is 280, area of triangle is -5. Okay, so something is wrong with my triangle. Okay, let's see what could be wrong. So I go with something like integer width, integer height, did the same thing here. And then I go with something like shape, W, and H. Okay, if I'm not wrong, okay, let's change this to something like width, W, and H. Okay, so W and H. So I remember, guys, I feel like I did this mistake last question as well. So basically what I gotta do here is I create a constructor called shape that has, oh, this is W. Let's change this to width. There we go, guys. Now it should work. Had a typo. If I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, there we go. Okay, perfect. And now let's see. Okay, did I have a question here before I shed this to Sensei/ChatGPT? Did I have a question, guys? Let's see. Okay, I did have a question. Let's go with the Control-C, copy that, give Sensei/ChatGPT here. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and extend this from here. Paste it, go with Shift-Enter and say something like Sensei. I actually didn't know how to add the new /delete keyword. I do know what they do, but I have very little practice on how to use them. Exclamation .. How to use them. There we go. Okay, let's see. Okay, why did I .. not like greater than sign? That said, no people, I specifically told you to use new and delete so you could practice heap allocation and cleaning up the memory. This is exactly why I yell at you. You know the theory, but you never apply it. Alright, let's fix this properly, step by step. Here's how you should allocate the heap. So we go with something like integer main, go with something like shape, and then I gotta create an object dynamically using new. So I go with shapes at index of 0 equals to new rectangle. Didn't I do that? I did that, but I went with like a ampersand. Have you tried DeepSeek or Queen AI yet? Honestly, I haven't like tried them yet. I did like use DeepSeek, but not to like learn programming in general. That said, I do know like there are many other AIs that is like better than ChatGPT when teaching. but I feel like, guys, I actually like ChatGPT a lot. That said, so I'll go with something like area, this area, shapes at index of I. Okay, so I gotta use 2 for loops. Okay, key points. And then virtual destructor extra if you want fully correct. That ensures delete shape. Duh. Okay, honestly, I have a question. In that case, I need to. Why do I have like an ampersand here? Okay, let's try something like new real quick. Okay, so I'll go with something like new here as well. Okay, so I had to go with something like, let's get some say there. Duh. Okay, so I'm assuming. Okay, okay, I gotta create objects inside. So the objects that I did create here. Oh, wait, hold up, guys. I shouldn't create objects in that case. Like, instead of going with something like a rectangle, I go ahead and delete that. Delete that as well. I do something like my shapes is array at index of 0. So I'll go with shape at index of 0 is going to be equal to my new rectangle. Okay, there we go. It's going to be equal to my new rectangle. Okay, that does work. And then let's do the same for my triangle. So I'll go with something like shape at index of 1. Okay, is going to be equal to my new triangle as well. You have to put class name after new, not variable name after new. Oh, okay, I see. That actually makes sense because like the only time I did like practice new was before I started object-oriented programming, when I did work more with variables and like whatchamacallit, the basic functions and everything. Okay, that's it. I added new. Now I gotta add delete as well. To go with delete, let's go ahead and copy my for loop here. Let's go ahead and paste that here. And then do something like shape. Should I do with something like shape.delete? I gotta go with delete shape at index of I. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that and delete shape at index of I. There we go. Is this C? Honestly, it is C++. That's it. Now for it, control us to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. So it says calculated area. I mean, it did calculate area. That's it. I do think I understand why we did this. Okay. Although, let me go with the controller. Control C, copy that gets into ChatGPT here. I do have like a question. Okay, let's paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like Sensei. Okay, this does work. That said, why didn't we need a address of operator? Okay, slash ampersand slash ampersand, because we did use that before to get a specific memory address from our arrays pointer. Okay, do you know about Valgrind? Honestly, I haven't like heard of Valgrind. Okay, that said, yes, finally people, you actually applied new and delete properly. Now let's address your question about the address of operator or ampersand. Then we write shape at index of 0 equals to new rectangle. New rectangle already returns a pointer to the heap memory. When the object is stored, that means shape at index of 0 does not need a ampersand. It already holds the memory address. Contrast with a stack object like rectangle, rect shape equals to this thing. Here we need a ampersand because rect is on the stack. Okay, rect is a normal variable on the stack. Rect gives the memory address. But if you just write shape at index of 0 equals to rect, you try to copy the object, which is not allowed for a pointer. Oh, I see. So ampersand is used when you have a stack object and want a pointer. New is used. New returns a pointer already. No need for ampersand. Okay, people. Now I have a challenge. Okay, now I have a challenge for you to test if you understand this. New plus delete plus pointers modify your current program so that the user can enter the dimensions of two shapes and runtime, create the object with new, display their areas, and free the memory. I want no cheating. If you mess this up, I'll yell at you harder. Honestly, I just gotta add user input. I feel that is like kind of easy. That's it. I do need some. I do want to learn about the structures as well. Let's say something like Sensei. Before I do the question, can you explain me about the structure as well? Question mark. I don't know where to use it and what it does. Okay, let's see. Yes, people, finally asking the right questions before rushing into code. Now listen carefully, because destructors are crucial when dealing with heap memory and class cleanup. What is a destructor? A destructor is a special member function of a class that is automatically called when an object is destroyed. Its job is to clean up resources the object used, like memory allocation with new, open files, network connections, etc. The syntax is my class. Use a tilde my class, okay, tilde operator with my class cleans up the code. Destructor called. Notice the tilde, okay, before the class name. Is this even pronounced as tilde? Okay, let's go ahead and copy that. Okay, let's copy that. I'll use that in a bit. No return type, where do we use it? Destructors are especially important when you use allocated memories dynamically, so we create a shape class. Okay, integer, we have a pointer of data, and then we publicalize everything. And then we go with something like shape, delete data. I think I see. Okay, let's go ahead and paste this and say something like, sensei, what does, actually, how do we pronounce this? Sensei, how do we pronounce this? Okay, and guys, honestly, I feel like I might just stream for like 40 more minutes, because I do like gotta go with some because I do have some college stuff. Plus, I gotta work on building my PC as well. Guys, I'm really excited to actually like upload the video of me actually building it. That's it. Haha, people finally asking the little things. The tilde is like tilde. Oh, is it tilde? It's pronounced as tilde, or sometimes people call it tilde. Okay, when you see tilde shape, you just say destructor shape or tilde shape. It's not a magical squiggly, it's your object cleanup signal. Now memorize it, because if I hear you saying squiggle in the exam, I'll hunt you down, squiggle. Okay, do you want me to show you the destructor would fit in our program? I think I understand how it works. Let's say something like sensei. Okay, I think I understand how it works, dot dot dot. That said, can I get a instructional based question now? Okay, let's see. Oh, finally, ready to put your brains to work, people. Let's level this up. So our task is to create a base class called vehicle and two derived classes called car and bike. Our vehicle class should have two protected data members, speed, which is an integer, and capacity, which is an integer as well. And a constructor to initialize speed and capacity, a virtual function that displays info, that prints vehicle info. Car should, okay, that inherits from vehicle, have an additional data member called numDor, which is an integer as well. And then I gotta override my display info, okay. And then for my bike method, my bike class inherits from my vehicle class as well, has an additional data member of has carried, which is a boolean, and a overrided display method to print info, okay. And then in our main function, I create a dynamic array of pointers to vehicle of size 2. Okay, so my array consists of two elements assigning one car object and one bike object. Okay, use new loop. Okay, use new loop through the array and call display info on each. Delete all objects from the memory. Remember, you must use virtual functions new/delete and the arrow operator. Okay, let's get some say/chat GPT here. That's it. Let me go ahead and control and delete everything. Now let's start off by including a pair of anchor braces. I want to include IOStream. Okay, next up, let's read the instructions. So I'm assuming I create a vehicle class. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a vehicle class. There we go. And then I'll add a pair of curly braces. Now inside of my vehicle class, I'm going to be creating two protected data members. So I'll go with something like protected. There we go. Okay, I'll create two protected data members. First is going to be an integer of speed, and the second is going to be an integer of capacity, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and publicalize everything. Maybe add a comment that says something like constructor. Now let's create a constructor for my vehicle class. My vehicle's constructor is going to be consisting of two data members. The first is going to be a speed, second is going to be an integer of, let's say, capacity. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to be adding a pair of curly braces and initializing my data members. I'm going to do something like this speed data member equals to my speed parameter, ending with a semicolon. and this capacity data member equals to my capacity parameter ending with a semicolon as well. There we go. I think I spelled it correct this time. Okay, next up. Okay, wait. Hold up, guys. I think I spelled it wrong. There we go. Capacity. Okay, perfect. Ta-da-da. Or ta-da-da. Your git commits look like ransom notes you professional semicolon placement consultant. Ta-da-da. Huh? Guys, what did that mean? Okay, hold up, guys. I think I didn't understand that properly. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and create a constructor. I did that. I initialized it with a constructor. Now I gotta create a method. So let's add a comment that says something like methods. For my methods, I'm going to be creating, let's say, a virtual virtual void method called something like display info. So I'll go with display info with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Did I spell virtual correct? I did. Okay, that prints vehicle info, so I'll go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator. Let's say something like vehicle info. There we go. With a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And then I gotta create. Okay, that's honestly pretty much it for my vehicle class. I'll end up with a semicolon, and then I gotta create another class, a derived class called car. So let's go ahead and create a car class that inherits all the public content. Excuse me, guys, what are you doing? Honestly, I'm learning the basics of C++. That said, today's content is about overriding functions. I'm learning about overriding functions this stream. That said, I am going to be inheriting everything from my vehicle class and then go with the pair of curly braces. What are you building, bro? Honestly, I'm not like building something actually big or something. I am just doing like a bunch of practice questions to understand about overriding functions in C++. Okay, that said, inherits from vehicle, have an additional data member of doors. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a protected data member. Okay, this is going to be called something like number of doors, which is going to be an integer. So I'll go with something like num doors. There we go. Ending with a semicolon. Good luck. I appreciate you, Yash. That actually means the world to me, guys. Okay, and then let's go ahead and publicize everything. Now, I'm going to be honestly creating a constructor, so let's go ahead and create a constructor. There we go. Okay, so inside of my constructor, let's see. Let's go ahead and create a constructor for my car class, which is going to be consisting of, let's say, 3 data members. The first data member is going to be, let's see, so speed. The second is capacity. So first is going to be speed. I'll go with something like S. The second is going to be an integer of capacity. I'll go with C. The third is going to be an integer of number of doors. So I'll go with something like ND. And then let's go in a new line, add a colon, and let's see. So I'm going to be creating a constructor for my vehicle class as well, since I am inheriting from my vehicle class. Okay, my vehicle class consists of 2 parameters, speed and capacity. So I'll go with something like speed and capacity, ending with a semicolon. Honestly, I'll go with a pair of curly braces to initialize my number of doors data member. So I'll go with something like this number of doors is data member equals to my ND parameter ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Okay, next up, let's see. Have an additional data member called number of doors. Did that. Override display info to print data. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a method. So I'll go ahead and add a comment that says something like methods. For my methods, I'm going to be creating a void method called something like display info. Okay, which overrides my display info for my vehicle class, because my vehicle class does have a display info method as well. That's it. This is going to be saying something like car info, so I'll go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator which says something like car info. Okay, and then I gotta go with something like speed, so I'll go with something like speed. There we go. Okay, my speed is going to be equal to x, so that is going to be equal to, I'll go in a new line at another insertion operator of my speed data member with another insertion operator that says something like comma capacity, okay, which is going to be equal to, I'm going to add another insertion operator of my capacity data member, okay, with another insertion operator of a comma. Now one is going to be for doors as well, so doors is going to be equal to, I'll add another insertion operator of my num doors' data member with a forward slash new line ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. That's pretty much it for my car class as well. So I'm going to go ahead and end my class with a semicolon and then create a bike class. So I got to create another class called bike. So I'm going to create a bike class. Uh, okay, and my bike class does inherit all the public content from my vehicle class as well. There we go. And then I'm going to add a pair of curly braces. Now, I got to inherit from my vehicle class. Did that have an additional data member called has career? Is that how I pronounce it? Has career, which is a boolean. Okay, so let's go ahead and create another protected, which we call the data member, which is going to be a boolean that says something like has career, okay, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and publicize everything. And then let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like constructor, because I do want to like create a constructor for my bike class. And my bike class's constructor will be having, let's say, 4 data members this time. The first data member is going to be something like speed. The second data member is going to be integer of capacity. The third data member is going to be an integer of number of doors. The third parameter is going to be a boolean of HS, which is has career or HC. Okay, and then I'll go in a new line, add a colon, and add a constructor of what you will call my vehicle class. Every ta-da-da adds another segmentation. Okay, false to your soul. Ta-da-da. Guys, honestly, there was like another comment that somebody just said ta-da-da as well. Does it like actually mean something? I thought it was a joke. That's it. Let's go ahead and create a vehicle class. Add a pair of parentheses. Now, inside of my vehicle class, I'm going to be requiring 2 parameters. The first is going to be speed. The second is going to be capacity with a pair of parentheses. Now, let's go ahead and initialize my has career data member. Okay, which is going to be equal to my HC parameter ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and add a comment that says methods as well, because I do want to add a method. So I got to override my display method. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a void display method. Okay, display info method with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Honestly, before I go with a pair of curly braces, I will use the override keyword. So I override my display, I override my method here. Okay, and just to save time, I might actually copy the standard console output because like I feel it is the exact same thing. Okay, let's go ahead and paste this here. Maybe I'll go with something like shift tab to de-indent. Okay, and this is going to be something like num door. Okay, since I can't go with my num door, I might remove this from here real quick. There we go. Okay, and instead of doors, I'll go with something like career. There we go. Okay, with another insertion operator of something like yes/no. Okay, there are 3 main places where to create variable stack, heap, and static memory. The most important difference between them is a lifetime they provide. Oh, I see. That actually sounds pretty. That actually sounds pretty smart. Okay, that said, for career, I'm going to set that equal to yes/no. So should I like literally set it to be either yes or no? Like yes/no. Is this what's I'm saying, man, guys? Okay, I'll add another insertion operator of a / new line ending with a semicolon. And then add a comma here. There we go. Okay, next up, let's see. I gotta end my bike class with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, I gotta create a dynamic array of pointers to vehicle of size 2. So I'm going to be creating a let's see, a dynamic array for my vehicle class. I'm going to go with something like vehicle. Okay, this is going to be a vehicle object. There we go, which consists of 2 parameters. Okay, of 2 elements, ending with a semicolon. And this is going to be, let's say, okay, address of operator. A pointer. Okay, next up, assign 1 car object and 1 bike object. So let's do something like my vehicles class at index of 0 equals to a address of operator or a ampersand. Okay, I won't go with ampersand. I'll go with new. So I'll go with something like my new. Let's say, what was my 2 classes? Car class. Okay, so let's go with something like car with a pair of parentheses. How many parameters does my car class require? It requires 3 parameters: speed, capacity. Excuse me, guys, a number of doors. My speed is going to be something like 50 miles per hour. My capacity is going to be something like, I don't know, maybe 1% or maybe 2%. It is a racing car, guys. Let's change that to something like 300 miles per hour. Okay, and then number of doors. There's like, I don't know, maybe 2 doors. Okay, and then let's go ahead and end that with a semicolon. And then create another vehicle class. This is going to be vehicle at index of 1, which is going to be equal to something like new bike this time. I need a speed for my bike. My bike is going to be going in something like 25 miles per hour. Okay, and then my bike's capacity is, I don't know, maybe carrying 2 people. And then let's say career. Let's say career is set to something like true, ending with a semicolon. Okay, honestly, let's change it to an uppercase S. Okay, next up, let's see. I got a loop through the array now, so let's go ahead and use the index-based for loop. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Let's say for every integer of I which equals to 0, while my I is less than 2, which is my array's size, I'm going to increment my I by 1, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now I'm going to do something like my vehicle's object is going to be my vehicle at index of I is going to be pointing towards, is going to be having an arrow mark of my display info with a pair of parentheses to invoke the method ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and create another for loop. So I'll go with something like for a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like for every integer of I which equals to 0, while my I is less than 2, which is my razor size, I'm going to increment my I by 1. Okay, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. And now let's see, what was I going to do here? Okay, I got to delete. Let's go ahead and use the delete keyword. My vehicle at index of I ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. So I did delete that as well. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0 ending with a semicolon. Honestly, I just realized that I might as well actually create a destructor as well. Before my methods, I'll add another comment that says something like a destructor, because I need to like get in habit of actually using destructors too. I'll go with something like a tilde operator of something car, and then I'll add a pair of parentheses. Okay, and then a pair of curly braces with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like destructor calls with a / new line ending with a semicolon. I'll do the same for my bike class as well, so I'm gonna go under my constructor, add a comment that says destructor. There we go. That has a tilde as well of my bike class with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces that has a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like destructor called. There we go, with a / new line ending with a semicolon. Play Minecraft. Honestly, guys, I do miss playing games. I used to like play games a lot. That's it. Maybe after I programming for 258 series, I might actually play a game at the last day of series once I did like complete my series. That said, will you talk about the TechRace turnaround method? Honestly, I haven't heard of that method. What's it about? Okay, that said, let me create a destructor here as well. So I'm going to be adding a comment that says something like destructor. Okay, there we go. For my destructor, I'll add a tilde for my vehicle class as well, with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces that has a standard console output. Okay, that's going to say something like destructor calls with a / new line ending with a semicolon. And now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So it says something like okay, car info, and then car info. Instead of going with car info, I might go with something like bike info. Okay, this is my car class, that is my bike class, so I'll go with something like bike info. Okay, perfect. Bike, let's delete that. If I did Control A, Control C to copy the code, get sensei/ChatGPT here. Let's go ahead and paste this, Shift Enter, and say something like, Sensei, I used a destructor as well, ... Does everything look, okay, does everything look good / correct question mark? Okay, let's see, look it up, Google, it's pretty event grade. Oh, I see. People, you've come so far, but not far enough. This code is close, but you've got a few landmines hidden inside that. would explode in real execution. Let's tear this apart. Sensei style. Spelling disaster. Your base class is vehicle instead of vehicle. Guys, I make a lot of typos. It's consistent, but in real code, people will laugh at your compiler errors. Fix the spelling everywhere. Virtual destructor missing. In polymorphism, when you delete a derived object, a base pointer, you must take a base destructor virtual, or else the base part gets destroyed. Okay, not the derived one. So vehicle, virtual vehicle. Okay, vehicle should be virtual. That single word virtual decides whether your object can live clean or not. Okay. Okay, number 3, wrong argument type. Bike, bike. Okay, yes is a string, not a boolean. Oh, I see. If your constructor has career, okay. Okay, cosmic but important. Your destructor, the all print destructor call. That's confusing when you have multiple classes. It should say something different. Car destructor called, bike destructor called. I see. That way, when objects are destroyed, you see the order clearly. Fixed version. Okay, honestly, okay. So apparently, I got added virtual as well for my vehicle. Let's scroll all the way up and like read Y as well. In polymorphism, when you delete a derived object to a base pointer, you must make the destructor virtual, or else the base part gets destroyed, not the derived one. I think I see. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and change this to, okay, my constructor to a virtual vehicle constructor. There we go. And honestly, I might work more on this like next stream. That said, I'll give Sensei/ChatGPT share operating system. Honestly, whatchamacallit, I am using VS Code. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and say something to Sensei. So I'm gonna be like, Sensei, I think I see ... That said, I might honestly end the stream right now because I do have college assignments. That said, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers before I end the stream? ? Okay, let's see, guys. Honestly, I'm even hydrated my lips real quick. It is kind of dehydrated. Okay, listen up. Listen up, viewers of the big stream. Today you witnessed true growth from confusion to comprehension, from code chaos to clarity. My people stood his ground against polymorphism, faced pointers, memory, and destructors head on and won. Remember this, all of you watching. Mastery is not about knowing everything, it's about refusing to quit when your brain screams enough. Guys, I'm pretty sure that's not said by Sarah Sensei. So, rest for now, Vivek, but don't get too comfortable. Tomorrow your code better be sharper, cleaner, and ready for war. Now go finish the assignments like a disciplined coder. Okay, coder you're becoming. Stream dismissed. Okay, let's go to my gameplay screen. Why are you talking so many honestlies? Aren't you honest, guys? Honestly, I don't know why I keep saying that a lot. That's it, let's go to my main camera. Alright guys, so basically that was pretty much it for this stream. That's it, I didn't want to stream longer. Although I do have some college assignments, plus I do gotta build my PC as well. I will be posting or uploading the PC build video real soon. That's it. If you guys did enjoy this stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like the episode. My algorithm sharing makes me smile, and subscribing is like a cherry on top. And guys, once I actually do build my PC, that is gonna fix all my stream lag. And once my stream lag is fixed, I will be starting to multi-stream on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, maybe TikTok and Instagram as well if I did meet the the followers requirements. If you guys do enjoy my content, make sure to follow me there. That's it, you guys. Good luck, get access to my socials by typing exclamation and the socials name without any space in the chats, and also join the Discord. You guys can get access to my Discord server by typing exclamation Discord in chat, or also by accessing the link in the description. That's it. I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace.